We are live.
Woo!
Get nervous.
You know that we get live.
We get live. Everybody, welcome to the first Builders Call of February, which happens to be my favorite month of the year because it's when my precious bride and wife was born. She is a groundhog, which is why I knew it was true love and fate. And a lot of times I am asked, Mike, I'm sure you have asked me this multiple times, like, how in the world did I end up marrying Amy Spivey?
I have.
And it's because we share the same birthday and we're both groundhogs. And to me, that was just a pure sign from above that we were supposed to be together. Right?
What? Is today Groundhog Day?
Tomorrow.
What? Happy early birthday, Todd.
I will come out of my house and I will text all of you on this call if I see my shadow or not. And you will be able to predict if winter's going to be 6 weeks longer or more or less.
Todd, I'm surprised you weren't able to convince Brandon to go with a groundhog instead of
Porcupine.
I tried. That man would not listen to me, but you're right.
It would be called Griggly instead of Quiggly. Wiggly.
I think we were all sold once you realized that a pack of porcupines is called a prickle. It was game over. There's nothing cooler or more cuddly sounding than a prickle.
So the question I've had, and I know for everyone on this call, they're in their heads also dying to know this or living to know this, is if a pack is called a prickle, is one called a prick?
It depends on exactly which porcupine we're talking about.
Oh, well answered.
Nice one.
Well, I am so happy and excited today, guys. We've got Senior Vice President Sarah Pappas and Mike Pappas on, joined with agency owners Gabby and Fred Roethlisberger. I don't have to tell you all out there that it is very difficult to be around these individuals and not have a really good time, to not come away after the time that you spend with them feeling better about yourself, feeling more energized. They have a true heart for this company. Mike and Sarah are some of the original OGs that have been around the corner and back with us, instrumental in pioneering a lot of the systems and processes that we get to benefit from today. And I know they're really excited to talk about some of the success in building a very healthy and thriving organization that the Roethlisbergers have been able to do over the course of the past year. And I do not want to steal any of their thunder, but I will turn it over to the ones, the only Senior Vice Presidents, Mike and Sarah Pappas. And I would just say my much gratitude and love for you guys. And I can't wait to listen to what you pour into us today.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And I am proud to be an OG Symmetry. This past 9+ years have been a wild ride. And you know what? We're looking forward to the next 9 years, right? We expect it just to be just as wild and awesome as the last 9 years, right? Full of growth and amazing things. So guys, we are so stinking excited to bring Fred and Gabby Roethlisberger onto the National Builders Call and really just to highlight what they have accomplished this past year, really going from starting an agency from scratch to ending the year 2022. We've been calling it the hat trick. Okay. And honestly, that's something that like Fred kind of made up because like, what else are you going to call it? It's like a triple threat or something like that. But 2022, these guys were #1 agency owners in the entire company for licensed and converted recruits. The number is 210 for the year. All right. These guys were also #1 in unique writers agency owners for the year, with the number of 75 unique writers for the year. And also the end of the year at #1 agency owner for new writers for the year at 69 new writers. So we just want to like pause and just say that is quite a feat. That is quite an accomplishment. Not to mention all of the SNAs that they broke out, the leaders that they broke out, key leaders, team leaders. So they're developing leadership as they go. They've really taken hold of all the cool things that have come out with Symmetry the last couple of years, with HQ and just all of the new technologies, and it's duplicating. So Mike, I'm going to actually pass this over to you so you can kind of facilitate this conversation as we go. But I just wanted to express my honor and gratitude for these amazing business partners.
Awesome. So for those of you on here right now, I really want to encourage you, get a pen, get some paper, kick it old school, or, type out your notes. Just practice active listening with this, because we're going to go through here quickly with the Roethlisbergers on the 5 phases to go from 50 interviews in a month to 50 interviews in a day. And there are some nuggets here, right? Success leaves clues. And the reason that it's called the 5 phases is you'll notice there being a journey. And so Fred and Gabby, the first phase that of the journey for you guys was creating and implementing your process in order to find your voice. Would you guys and also maybe do a Symmetry intro and all that sort of stuff for Symmetry Land, but unpack that. What does it mean to create and implement your process in order to find your voice?
So I am Gabby Roethlisberger, direct to Beth Maddox in the Pappas organization, and I'm out of Houston, Texas, agency owner, top producer. And how long have you been with Symmetry, Gabby? 5 years.
Okay.
5.5.
And when did you become an agency owner?
So we broke out as agency owners June 2021, and that's most definitely part of our story. We broke out as agency owners. Fred quit his job shortly after to be full-time in this and grow our business. And we did not, skyrocket out of agency owner like we wanted to. But we knew that we had to make a change. And one of those changes was just getting close to the fire, shaking up our life and moving to Tennessee. And so we did that, and we knew we had to do something different as far as our process. And I want to brag on Fred for a minute because, I think finding your voice comes from being able to pull from a call like this, or, the builders calls, the national calls, builders calls that you have within your agency, being able to pull what you need from there and having that come together to create what works for you. And I'll brag on Fred in that he came in. One thing, Fred, we all have egos. But Fred, I feel like his ego is just not that big. He's unbelievably coachable. And so I was focused on the now money, and he was focused on the future money. And so I honestly just kind of fed him to the wolves. I was like, figure it out, and he did, he picked brains, he associated, he did all of the, the 4 cornerstones, like everything, to get close to people who were where we wanted to be and learn and be coachable. And so that, I think, is where, it created our process that we have today. And it was definitely an evolution. Like 2022, we started, like Sarah said, with minimal, and now, from 50 a month to 50, a day. So Fred, I want to pass it over to you to talk on this first phase.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gabby. And just thank you to Brandon, Brian, and Casey, just the vehicle you created, and just forever grateful that, Sarah Pappas took a chance on this opportunity, because without her, none of us would be here. So Fred Roethlisberger, same intro as Gabby, but direct to my wife. And we were direct to mathematics, grateful to be so in the Pappas organization. And really that was something with me coming on and firing my boss in the final month of our AO run. There wasn't a lot of time for Gabby to really like teach me stuff, right? I didn't know what a ZipRecruiter was, and so really for me, it was, okay, I know that I'm committed to winning here, right? I planted my flag and fired my boss from a six-figure corporate world and the only thing I've ever known. So for me, it was, I need to have a beginner's mindset. I need to become a student of the game, right? And figure out how people are doing this. So this is kind of, some people will describe it as, I just took a shopping cart approach, right? I basically went into the grocery store of Symmetry and the grocery store of people that are building, and I put everything in, right? I grabbed a file interview from here, I took a recording from here, and I put all this together, right? And once you get all this shopping cart approach, you get everything together, you start making recipes, right? You got to figure out, what's my recipe for an interview? What's my style, right? And with that, you're not going to be able to get to your voice without massive activity. So, right. So I'm in the kitchen, I'm making all these recipes, I'm burning a lot of stuff, right? Like Thomas Edison, he figured out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb before he did. And so through that massive activity, and really in 2021, that was about 50 interviews a month, because that was all I was capable of doing. And so through that massive activity, getting to Tennessee, January, I was able to find my recipe. And so none of these people know this, but like, this is kind of my recipe of Fred's style of interview, right? My style of interview is, I want to structure it like Ian Graham does, right? Guardian Brothers, very organized. I want to have the posture of Jared Gillum, right? That the posture he puts out there is something that I strive for. Energy, like, she's on this call, Sarah Pappas. Sarah Pappas is the energy I bring up. Someone else I think of, Jamie Susie, like the energy that they just light up the Zoom room when they get on there. The why, right? The why someone is looking for this opportunity. Sarah Reinecke is so good at pulling out what they're looking for and where they want to go. So that, I'm grabbing all this stuff. And then urgency. You look at John Ziller and the way he's able to kind of put that urgency in place and bring people along from that final interview. So those are kind of the things that I put in. And obviously, like, I married a girl from Texas, so I sprinkle on some y'alls, but like, that's Fred's interview recipe. And so that's what works for me, right? And with that, we do an initial interview. We get people to a corporate overview. We do one live every Thursday. If not, there's a corporate overview video. And then after that video, we have a final interview with them. So that's kind of the process, and really what we were able to implement and what worked to help me find my voice.
And Fred, what would you say the biggest thing that for yourself on that journey, what's the main lesson you learned in all of this?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. The biggest lesson I learned, and this is something that you can write down, is you can't stub your toe standing still. So on the production side, we have agents come in and we're like, hey, do massive activity, make a mess, right? Make a mess, and then we can guide you. And so I couldn't figure out what worked for me until I figured out what didn't. So that massive activity moving forward constantly was what got me there.
I love that. I love that. So the next phase for you guys was, you had massive activity, highly coachable. And what I love is you're pointing to the system here. Like, you didn't recreate anything. I echo what Gabby said. Like, when we would, you and I would be meeting and every week it was simply just, hey, I learned this from here. I'm going to attempt to implement. This doesn't vibe with me. This does. All of it in the system, all of it in the Symmetry system. And the great news for everyone watching is simply that, like, Symmetry has all the pieces. We don't have to create anything new. We simply find what's there and what resonates to make it our own. And so once you did that, the second phase was leveraging technology and the system so you can focus on people. And I love that last part, because so often it seems like there's I'll call two ditches. One ditch is, man, technology is the answer. And the other is, well, I don't need technology, because technology is like, leveraging for tons of people. And others will be like, well, I don't need tons of people. Give me 3. And it's like, both of those are ditches, because if it's just technology without people, you're burning the fields. And if, you're people without technology, you're moving at a turtle's pace. And so kind of unpack for everyone, how your journey has looked like in leveraging technology to then leverage time with people.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And with that, the number one thing that I found here, and this is so incredible because I didn't have this where I came from, but we have an incredible marketing department here at Symmetry. So number one, leverage the system. And so I'm going to just tell you guys this real quick. If you go to HQ, get to the Builder's Corner, go to recruiting forms and tools. All the texts, all the emails, all the scripts, everything that I put together is from there, right? So those tools are there. We have an incredible marketing department. If you go to HQ, let me see here, video resources, we have little bite-sized videos explaining this opportunity, right? So for me, it's like, I'm not the magic sauce. I'm just learning this, right? I came from an engineering background. So why not leverage all the incredible things that our marketing department does? I mean, our entire home office and everything is so incredible. Like Amy Brown, Marlon Robles, it's fun to give, like, y'all help me so much every single week. Like our home staff is so incredible here, and they do everything to help us do our job better. Yeah. So on the recruiting and building side, like those are two major resources I leaned on, right? I don't want to recreate any of that. And then from there, on the technology piece, I found myself manually, copying and pasting text, copying and pasting emails, and it just wasn't scalable. So, this is something where I realized that, hey, I need a CRM, right? And there's so many incredible ones. You're going to hear it from an incredible one today, and I know this is in their pipeline switchboard, right, of getting a hold of these recruits. So a way to automate these texts and emails to where I'm not getting people on my calendar, they're getting on themselves. So find a CRM that is going to allow you to send those day 1, day 2, day 3 texts. So now you're removing yourself and basically firing yourself from running the drip campaign. You're letting technology doing it by automating it.
That's awesome. And Gabby, as far as what are your thoughts on that journey? As far as because you've been really good and gifted at staying in your lane from a standpoint of producing and today money, and once people are in the bucket, working with them to get productive and to SNA and that sort of thing. What do you have any input or feedback on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, going back to the massive activity, I mean, Fred in January was dialing, people and booking and setting initial interviews and dialing, just hundreds of dials. He was, the way that on the production side, we make 300 plus dials, he was doing that on the recruiting side. And this evolution of going through that massive activity, like he was talking about, was like, wait a second, there's gotta be something out there that will text these people, and there is, there's so much technology out there, and Google is your best friend. Like literally you can learn so much from YouTube, Google, and just researching what can do that. But it was definitely an evolution. It was just fun to even think back, like to then that he used to dial and set up initial interviews for himself. Yeah. And was just hammering the phones on the recruiting side. Wow. So it's just cool.
That's so good. So, okay. Phase 1, we had create and implement your process, to find your voice. Phase 2 was leveraging technology in the system so you can focus on people, right? Like hire out. I love how you said, make yourself obsolete in those menial things so that you can spend the time doing what only you do now, or where your gift is most highly valued. Now, the third phase is don't do it alone. Find running buddy or running buddies. Unpack what that looked like for you.
Yeah. And so for me, it was like, I'm seeing all these people on the production side, like they have running buddies and they do this. And so I'm here building, and I'm in the Franklin office in Tennessee, and 10 feet away, I have Sarah Pappas, right? And we get to feed off each other's energy. Like when I talked about constant feedback, we're doing that with each other. And so initially when I'm doing this recipe and finding it myself, it's a little bit like you're kind of dancing in the rain alone, right? And then people kind of see you dancing and they come join you. So you find these running buddies along the way, right? And this is with Sarah Pappas and cross lines like Brad Sullivan and Jared Gillum. And then it comes within your agency, right? The people like Charity and David Pruger, key leaders, and team leader David Garner, where, Charity, she picked this up and she made a decision that, hey, I want to grow my business. And guess what? She had to wear both hats on the production and recruiting side. And she had some crazy schedules. You did, Charity. But what you did was you didn't have any excuses. Your intention was clear to grow your business. And then when you did that, the solution appeared by your husband joining and being able to do what I do. So Sarah, like for me, it was such a pleasure, and I get so much energy by doing this with other people. And I know that was something that we got to do together last year.
I just want to say that last year was so cool because we got to, we're like, Mike and I are like, we're heading in this direction. And Gabby and Fred are like, we're coming with you. And right. And we, being able to work out of the same office, to me, it was like old dog meets new pup, like you brought in this like fresh energy, and you brought in this whole like just coachability and using the tools that came out in the system. And we still to this day, you're my number one collaborator when it comes to recruiting and growing the team. But having that running buddy, man, it was even just so fun to compete with you last year. Be like, oh man, I had like 10 final interviews today. How many do you have? And being able to compete, and then really just being able to challenge. A good running buddy will challenge you, right? Because you're going to get better in some areas, and they're going to get better, but you're challenging each other as you grow. So that was awesome.
I love that. And so from that standpoint, I want to also just throw out there for everyone watching, and you may be saying, again, does your mind, is it looking for reasons why not? Like what's different? Because at the end of the day, like Fred and Gabby don't live here anymore. They moved back to Houston. There's still that camaraderie, right? Like it's one of those, you work with what you can, you do what you can. Are you able to move? Great, move. Do you not have maybe an upline that you're jiving with? Well, great. Guess what? Your upline is not the source of your success here. Like, you make your own success, find other successful people and get around them. Fred and Gabby are shining examples of that, where they're, going around and developing relationships with people who are winning in the system. So again, we can find excuses why not, or we can find reasons why too. So this, as we bring it down for landing, we got 2 more phases here. And the 4th phase is so after you've found a running buddy, iron sharpening iron, then being ridiculously consistent with activity and tracking. Unpack what that looks like.
Yeah. And with that, for me, I look at the people on the production side that are so meticulous with how they track their business. And like, look no further than my wife, Gabby. So last year, Gabby issued over $191,000 in business, and her issue rate was over 91%. So I knew that I saw the power of her tracking her data. And I'm like, this is something that we need to be able to leverage on the building side. Because what I found as I was finding my voice was there was a lot of people that were kind of up and down with the building side, right? They have everything in place in the production side, but on the building side, they were kind of dabbling a little bit in the discipline and the consistency of it. So that was something for me where I need to know my numbers, right? If I'm going to call Joe Martinez and I'm going to have a conversation with him, he's going to be like, hey, buddy, that's great. What are your numbers, right? You need to know what your numbers are. So for me, this is very important if you're building, to know how many job applicants you have, right? Or how many warm market conversations you're having, how many initial interviews are scheduled, how many initial interviews do you sit on, how many people are you sending to a corporate overview? From there, how many people are scheduling a final interview? How many are showing up? How many packets do you send out? How many op credentials are you getting back? How many new writers do you have? How many SNAs? Because once you understand what all those numbers are, you're able to identify what your ratios are, and you can identify that bottleneck. And once I know what a bottleneck is, I can work on it. And these small increases in each area, each ratio, they lead to geometric increases in your results. So if these small increases can take you from 2 to 3 opt to 4 to 6 opt to where you're bringing in more people, but you're not making big changes. You're just increasing little things, changing a reminder here, sending out this text here. And so knowing your numbers is what unlocks all of that, because without that, you're just guessing.
Yeah, and we had an opportunity to attend a Tony Robbins Business Mastery. And we got to hear from Keith Cunningham. He's the rich dad of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, book by Robert Kiyosaki. And he quoted Warren Buffett. He said, if you can't read the scoreboard, you don't know the score. if you don't know the score, you can't tell the winners from the losers. And so for us,
say that again, Gabby, because I know people are like, oh crap, wait, what was that? What was that? And for everyone watching, I will put in the comments the 5 phases. So you can stop asking about the phases. I'll put them in when we're done here. But Gabby, say that quote again. Write this quote down, people, because it changed my life.
Warren Buffett said this, and he said, if you can't read the scoreboard, you don't know the score. If you don't know the score, you can't tell the winners from the losers. And as a business owner, there's no value in numbers. There's value in knowing what to do with it. But you can't know what to do unless you know the numbers. And so that's where, I mean, Fred and I are both guardians. If you're not a guardian, you can still do this, and it's necessary because you have to know where your business is at. You have to know what you're investing in and what's coming out of it. You know, what's the return on it? And the only way to do that is to track everything. And when I say everything, I mean, Fred, I thought I was kind of crazy with spreadsheets and stuff, but Fred's even crazier. But it's necessary, right? Like we have to know, are we winning or losing in what we're doing? So I just wanted to share that because that was a huge takeaway from me.
That's awesome. That's super powerful. And I love that takes vulnerability, and that ties because players like to be measured. And I will say, I think if we're all being honest, Fred didn't, but you know, as far as I know, I went through phases, Sarah's been through phases where we didn't want to be measured. And that's ego. That's, you know, ego is our most expensive thing we have here. And so putting that to the side, measuring so it can multiply. And that leads to the 5th phase, which is leveraging your time to 10x your funnel and break the bottlenecks. Unpack what that looks like, Fred.
Yeah. And so for me, like if you go through step 4 and you really, you know, get your funnel to where you have good ratios, what you're going to find is the main bottleneck for scaling is time. Right? It is time. So for me, that was my main bottleneck. I have all these initial interviews, all these final interviews, but like, how do I leverage my time better? And so for me, I saw that down the hall. And Sarah, like, I'm going to give this to you because there was 2 areas where you really led on delegating and leveraging, getting back your time during this process. So why don't you hop into both of those?
Well, you know, when you Gabby had said you started off making, you know, those 300 dials a day on recruiting. But then what happens when those $300 turn into actual initial interviews? Now your entire schedule is full of initial interviews. And then those initial interviews will eventually turn into final interviews. Where is the time in the day? Right. And so I know I've had to get really good at delegating. Another example really quick is, you know, all the spreadsheets. Yes, we track everything on spreadsheets. Fred, you've taught me how to do that. But you know what? Guardian is my last voice. And so I've had to hire an assistant to track my numbers and do it because I'm not going to do it. It takes me a lot of mental energy to do it. Where Fred, you and Gabby, you're like, yeah, spreadsheets. Well, you know what? I hired same thing with recruiting. Once my calendar was entirely full with first interviews, I had to delegate that. Right. And so I had hired somebody to do those first interviews because we established our process was first interview, corporate overview, second final interview, right? But then all of a sudden my calendar is full of final interviews, right? Now where am I going to have time to mentor new agents and all of that? So hiring people along the way to do those. And I don't hire out my final interviews because that's important, you know, that last point of contact is important. So what I started doing was group final interviews. And you know, Calendly is this amazing piece of technology that I love. You can schedule a group interview, and I have 3 group interviews a week, sometimes up to 75 people a week that I'm final interviewing, get 25 a piece, right? But now I'm only doing 3 hours a week of final interviews instead of 30 hours a week of final interviews. So that's leveraging your time.
Yeah. And I just want to say this real quick, Mike, of like, you go back to January, like I'm spending all this time. I'm the admin doing the job flips. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing 80 to 100 hours worth of work. Now my week looks like 3 group finals, an hour on a corporate overview, and then about an hour of sending out onboarding applications. Everything else has been delegated and automated.
And that's the beauty of the system we have here, Fred, is all of this is 100%, guys. Whether, look, no two journeys are the same. Like when I similarly, I ended up joining Sarah just like Fred joined Gabby, and my role was recruiting. For us, it was, 2 kids. We had 2 kids and, a lot of stuff going on. And so my role was recruiting and bringing stability at the home for Sarah to stay out in the field as the Lamborghini that she is, or, Tesla Roadster that she is. And so whatever you look, are you single? Do you have no kids? Do you have tons of kids? Do you have a supportive partner or a partner who's dragging you down? Like, everything will look different. What's important in this is you start in your journey, right? These are principles. Like, I've seen a lot of you asking, well, do you have a script? Do you have this? Do you have that? Guys, Symmetry, like, really, like Fred said, he took what Symmetry has in the builder's corner and just copied it over and then made tiny tweaks here or there that applied to him. And what I love is that all of us have that exact same opportunity. And be patient with yourself, okay? Because if you're comparing your beginning to someone else's middle, you're gonna get disheartened. At the end of the day, the corporate model is, and now that corporate model's dead, but, spend 30 years somewhere, get a chintzy, $30, you could pawn the gold watch for $30 somewhere, and you get just enough to be fat and barely happy. 30 years of your life. And yet so many of us won't give 6 months or a year to get things figured out here. We got to bet on ourselves. And that's something as we wrap up here, Todd, we've got, a few over, guys, bet on yourselves. And, Fred, I love, like, Fred's journey right now. You guys can look at this and be like, holy crap, what is it? 8,000 interviews they did last year, and, writers, and boom, 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 boom. How am I ever going to get somewhere? Like that. You start. Because I remember not 2 months ago, November, but like 14 months ago, talking with Fred, where he was barely getting 50 interviews a month, barely, and was feeling, overwhelmed and a bit depressed and, unhappy with himself and wondering if this was the right decision. Like, guys, it's a journey. It's a journey. Bet on yourself. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace. And even you and Gabby, you two, like, figuring things out, working with each other, being patient with each other, giving grace, celebrating, reaching up, reaching out, and reaching down to help, to learn, to, like, guys, this gift called Quility, called Symmetry, is so amazing. Like, my shirt says, my life is dope. It's because it is. And so is yours. You have Symmetry. We can all change our lives. So thank you, Todd. Thank you for having us on. Sarah, I just want to shout out, I love you. You're a freaking rock star. And Fred and Gabby, keep going at it to the moon, baby.
Thank you. And thank you, Todd, for having us on. And Fred and Gabby, y'all are some of the hardest working people in all of Symmetry. Super, super proud of your success and excited to see where you're going. So thanks for having us on, Todd.
Man, that was absolutely fantastic. So much gratitude to you guys, and definitely have a special place in my heart for Fred and Gabby. You notice the little things. When you're going through these spring tours, these fall tours, you're at conferences and you're traveling all about, you start to kind of look around the room and you notice people that are showing up. And I have seen Fred and Gabby showing up and plugging themselves in but not even just showing up. But what I would see is every event that I would attend that Fred and Gabby were there, they were typically the last to leave the event. They were in that room to absorb as much information and to learn from those that have come before them and to take back and implement some of the things that have been successful. So Fred and Gabby, you got big, big things ahead of you. You are so loved and cheered on by Mike and Sarah, and so highly spoken of. And today was just a great example of the leadership you guys are pouring back into the system that's given you a chance to get started anew. And so thank you for that. Thank you, Mike and Sarah, always. Woo! That was a good one.
Let's go.
Appreciate you all so much.
Thank you.
I think, guys, we're going to transition to the national call now. Please stay tuned. We're going to have some really good updates. I got my I used to say wing buddy, but now I have to say wing boss.
Oh, get out of here. There's no such thing as boss, just teammates, buddy. Teammates.
Man, I don't know. That's not what you were getting on to me yesterday when you were making me do push-ups and sit-ups for cursing during a meeting.
Don't be sharing that stuff with the team. Come on now.
Well, guys,
Give
we
away
are
the
so
secrets.
fired up to talk to you today about the leaderboards that celebrate some folks. We're going to get into some updates. We've got some greatest, largest, biggest contest of all time. We've got some leaderboards to update there. And guys, you are not going to want to miss this, but the next iteration of building upon the Switchboard platform, we're going to be talking about new Owners Circle sites that are soon to be launched and just all the ways that they can be revolutionary for your business. So before we get started, though, Mike and I will veil out and we'll roll a video.
Something we've been looking forward to for a long time. You guys ready for this event?
Sure.
We want to be leaders worth following. It's important that we really lean into who we are.
We're part of something that's really going to change people's lives, really change people's lives and change an industry.
We definitely do not want you stuck halfway up the mountain when you could be summiting.
So we support them, we listen to them, we encourage them.
If we can really deliver the right message at the right time in the right way to our customers, we win big.
We can absolutely change this industry and change the world together.
Did you catch that little piece where the camera caught me doing a standing ovation cheer in the theater, Mike?
I did not.
That was right when you were being announced for winning the top leadership for corporate in Denver, buddy.
I just got goosebumps thinking about that. It's an honor and a pleasure. I'm very grateful to be here with you, buddy.
Man, it was a cool moment. Definitely well deserved. Real excited too today, Mike. We've got the privilege and honor to be right down the hall where Mike and I will be going back down to join in just a few minutes. Where we've got the entire Symmetry Advisory Board in town. You've got some of the best, brightest minds down there that are truly pioneering what the next phase of this journey is going to look like for all of us. I mean, just hearing a little quick recap this morning of where we've been and where we're going. Guys, when you really think about in the last 2 years, we've gone from a company that was over 90% of our business came from working with individuals, kneecap to kneecap, face to face, to where now over 75% of our sales come from a virtual platform, whether that be on telephone or whether it be Zoom. We just saw some stats, Mike, back there where 2 years ago, 92% of all of our leads came from mailing a piece of paper out to individuals that were looking for mortgage protection, to where now in 2022, almost 60% of the leads we work are of a digital format. And we're also targeting a new market in life leads and not just focused on mortgage protection. And I know, Resma, you've got big plans moving towards the rest of 2023, but what other ways do you see us diversifying as a company?
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the company being so innovative in our approach and not being reactive like a lot of other companies are, being proactive. We didn't make these changes and have the foresight to see the mortgage market declining and less data happening and jump on digital leads and then digital platforms like Switchboard and what we're working on with Navigator. We wouldn't be in the position that we are now and still continue to see growth. So as we continue down this digital transformation, right, having our own Navigator platform with our digital products with 90% likely to approve as applied for, and the quoting piece, and all of our digital products and eventually analog products being on platform, and that being the fulfillment platform for the entire insurance industry in the future. It's just amazing to see, and how we're diversifying our lead portfolio. It's been traditionally just client acquisition leads like a mortgage protection and now general life, but we're actually seeing that 29% of our business last week was advanced markets. So we're seeing much more in the advanced market space. And if you look at the economy and our financial position right now with everything that's going on, people need those products more now than ever. So that's going to continue to be a flagship division for us in growth over the coming years. So just excited to see all the transformation going on.
Love it, buddy. We're fired up. The advisory board, as they always have through the years, the legacy advisory board members out there that we're going to be following up with, sharing some of the things that we've talked through this week with the current advisory board, and just guys, really to continue to, as Resma said, to be proactive and to look at the way that we're going to disrupt an industry, the way we're not waiting for challenges such as a significant increase in mortgage rates and keeping the ability to go out and protect as many families as possible, and to continue to look at the way we view this company, which is through the eyes of an agent, and how can we give them more profitability with the least amount of time spent on actually having to work and do the day-to-day and spend more time making impact on lives, which is what this company truly is about, guys. So we are really fired up about it. So Mike, let me know if I can get this right. Sometimes I screw this part up.
You got
the
buddy.
slideshow up, buddy?
You got it. Just start that bad boy and ready to rock. Perfect. Nice work.
Coming up pretty soon, we're going to have Jay Nesbitt, Chief of Staff Jennifer Fitzgerald, and Engineer Associate